I was just, hey, how you doing? By the way, John, nice to see you. Um, I'm going to try and make this quick, and if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I say that like four times during an hour and a half long rant about something, or like three rants that are generally strung along. Anyway, I was just thinking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Actually, I saw one of a couple jokey little memes about it's with old Obi-Wan and Luke's like, hey, did you fight in the wait? You fought in the Clone Wars? And the one was like, hell yeah, man, that shit was tight. I fought a cyborg with four arms, and then the other one, it was fought in it. Like I started it and I fucking ended it, sort of thing, which I thought was pretty funny. But it also kind of made me think, like, I like Obi-Wan personally. I know other people who don't, and they don't like him for some of the similar reasons. I don't respect or like Yoda, for example. Especially Obi-Wan during the Clone Wars was seen as sort of like the ideal Jedi, as the one who would sort of embody what it should be to kind of be a Jedi as it is. And by the Clone Wars era, the Jedi were kind of dicks in a lot of ways. Like they were pretty much just shills for like a political system, and they're a lot of the sort of more spiritual bent to it had been polluted and diseased and kind of rotted away, and to the point where it had become a sort of really almost strict religion, as opposed to what it kind of should be of an individual's kind of path and relationship with that sort of consciousness of the universe, as it is. And it became a very dictatorial sort of thing where it's the right way is like this, and any deviance from that and you're bad and we can't have that. No, 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 no. You sneeze funny and all of a sudden, oh, you're a dark side, you're a horrible person, we can't deal with you anymore, we've got to stop you or something. you know um I think for me, like, some of the best parts of Revenge of the Sith was actually Palpatine's lines to Anakin. A lot of the times it was, the Sith and the Jedi are alike in a lot of ways. They want power, they want to hold on to their power, and the Jedi were like that because they very, very much so strayed from their own path and became inured of all this other garbage that they shouldn't have been. Um, but even through that, I mean, it was, Obi-Wan was sort of like, oh, if you're going to have a model of a Jedi, then it's going to be Obi-Wan. I think that the Clone Wars made Obi-Wan be what he wasn't supposed to be. What I mean by that, there are some of those things, like Anakin, probably came to his own in the Clone Wars. This was something that, he was kind of ready for. He's like almost a MacArthur type of thing. Like he wasn't ever going to find himself or anything else like that without some sort of major conflict for that. I mean, even Ahsoka said it more than once. It was the whole time I've been a Jedi, basically, we've been at war, practically. And what are we going to do if there's peace? Like, we've been taught, we're supposed to be peacekeepers, but we're, had to be warriors for these few years. What are we going to do there? And she even mentioned she has no idea what Anakin's going to do at the end of this. I mean, barring what actually happened, but no one thought that was going to happen. Because, no one was a clinical psychologist and didn't see the sociopath writing on the wall. Anyway, it's a whole different thing. So I think Obi-Wan kind of had to. This is what I think, and I'm just speculating about Obi-Wan here. I think, especially with Qui-Gon Jinn as his teacher, I think Obi-Wan's sort of destiny might have been, without the Clone Wars, being a sort of, almost sort of Jedi Doctor Who. I think he would have had a great time bombing around the universe, being snarky and quippy to people, righting wrongs, trying to talk things through. Even in the Clone Wars, he was known as the negotiator. and he was the sort of like the preeminent master of the form of lightsaber fighting that focused on defense. That just sort of reminds me of the way I think it was Stephen Moffat would talk about Doctor Who, where it's like he doesn't have like a spaceship with like guns and torpedoes and stuff on it. He has a call box to call for help. He doesn't have a gun, he doesn't have a sword, he's got a screwdriver to help fix things. Or she, or it. They. Now, with Jodie Whittaker, who, despite everything else, is, at least for her, doing an amazing job. And I love her as a doctor. She's awesome. Anyway, I think that would have basically been Obi-Wan. And I think the time between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, that might have been kind of what was going on. I think maybe, he would have been, kind of snarky about stuff, and, maybe he thought he had to have a certain sort of image and structure to his life, that he had to basically raise Anakin. So maybe that made him toe the line a little bit more in terms of the council, but he also thought the council was kind of hot shit, and they were kind of really, Yoda especially, and Mace Windu kind of falling along with that as being kind of the main causes for a lot of things. Like if they would have been on their ball and been more true to kind of what a Jedi should be and their own teachings about a sort of release of discernment, about they had an attachment to a very narrow, childish, putrescent layer of understanding of what attachment was. And this is why I think Rebels was really cool, because the way they talked about, and even Yoda in Rebels talked about, okay, you're going to be afraid, it's kind of how you react to it, as opposed to, if you're fear, you're in the dark side. Yeah, it could lead to that. And the more that you teach abstinence only, denial, 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 the more that stuff is going to start piling up in your subconscious. And the more you fear it and push it to the side and deny it, the more it's going to start ruling you. So the dark side was able to be so strong because the Jedi themselves were fueling it. They were fueling it by their utter sort of very strict revealed religious idea of what this stuff should be. And it wasn't supposed to be revealed religion. It was supposed to be experienced religion, or experienced spirituality. And that's kind of what the Force is supposed to be. And, I think that's why, like, Qui-Gon, was able to be, as awesome as he was, because he had a certain amount of balance going on with him. He was like, no, don't worry about this other stuff. Feel this out the way it's supposed to go. Pay attention to that sort of consciousness of the universe as it's going to go, as opposed to just, well, the priest on high told us it's what it is, so that's what it's got to be, which is what ended up happening. So, the Jedi themselves, with their own diseased subconscious, was helping fuel the dark side, which helped Plagueis and Sidious be able to get their plans enacted, and then Sidious, after he killed Plagueis, to roll it through. So I think Obi-Wan, the Clone Wars kind of messed up, I think, his path, in that once there was this war that was going on and all this stuff that was in chaos, I think he took it upon himself to be like, okay, well, this has got to be stopped, and the only real way it's going to be stopped with that is kind of pulling together. I think he had it where it was like, no, we need to have a united front, and so he sort of took lead on that. Because I kind of think of this, everyone kind of puts things in the context of their own lives. I've been in that, not in terms of a war, but in terms of, especially having to work in mental health, when the sort of brass powers that be, those that were up higher than even the people one or two tiers above me, made certain decisions or declarations. There's been tons of times in the 12 and a half years I was in mental health that I disagreed with what was going on. I felt that what the proclamations and declarations and everything else were uh, in some instances just stupid. I don't know how else to say it. They were dumb. They were not clinically minded. These are organizations that, even though we're dealing with mental and behavioral health, feared psychology, and they made these decisions that made no sense. They didn't make any sense in terms of any sort of clinical or academic sense. They didn't make a whole lot of sense even in terms of okay, well, you're going to lie to me that you're a nonprofit organization, but you're all doing this just for the money. And even some of those decisions didn't seem to make a lot of sense. But I'm still working there. My name's on a contract. I'm showing up day to day, clocking in, everything else like that. So by my continuing to agree to work there, I had to follow certain of these, ideas and practices, and institute some of these different things that I thought were dumb, or at the very least just didn't agree with. And no one was really able to explain to me how these were any good at all, let alone better than what we had been doing, or any better than any of the other stuff that was out there. No one did. It was just basically like, this is what we're doing, just do it. And that was never anything that really worked too well for me, because I was always sort of like, yeah, why? But again, I still agreed to work there, so I had to, put on a certain face, like, all right, listen, kids, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going on. This is how we have to do things. This is how it's going to change our lives. This is how it's going to change our routines. We're going to try and keep things to this certain way, so it's not a complete changeover as a whole. But so you have to sometimes put on that face of, I don't agree with this, but this is the way it's going to be, and we have to make this work the best that we can. And I think that's what Obi-Wan had to do with the Clone Wars. I don't think he agreed with it. I don't think he wanted to do it. But since he had to, but since he was ready, willing, and able to stay within the Jedi Order, and ready, willing, and able to commit himself to the ideals that he felt that the Jedi were supposed to be upholding, which, quite frankly, they were not. But he believed that. So there's a certain naivete about him, and a certain hope that this is what he was fighting for. And I don't, and they weren't. And I think, a lot of them knew that, especially as the war progressed. But he was still trying to hold on to what he felt was right with that. And I think it would be really nice, and more than nice, I think it's actually needed at either the Ahsoka show or the Kenobi show that's due out here in another year or two. I think at least one of them needs to have some sort of clarification regarding Ahsoka's banishment from the Jedi Order. Because in the Clone Wars, Yoda even said that it was not a unanimous decision. And if I'm trying to remember the actual scene, I don't have a particularly good photographic eidetic memory, but sometimes there's little flashes that kind of come and go. But if I remember the scene, Obi-Wan's framed in that too, or they show him right around that. They don't actually say anything of who it was ever that was the holdout. They say not unanimous. I mean, it could have been, if there's 12 people on there could have been, 9-3 or something like that. I got the sense that it was probably 11-1, and the one holdout would have been Obi-Wan. The only other person I could have seen that might have possibly been a holdout, maybe Plo Koon. Since him and Ahsoka were, kind of had, a certain sort of uncular, was it avuncular, I think avuncular is the word, sort of uncle-niece sort of relationship a little bit. He's the one that found her and brought her into the Order. They had a couple of adventures together that worked really well. So that might have been the only other one, because damn well Mace Windu, especially with his shitty ass little citizen line, in season 7 of Clone Wars after Ahsoka brought in Maul, and his kind of shitty attitude about that. It's interesting is out of everyone there, Mace Windu should have been the poster child for the Jedi, because his whole fighting style and everything brought him close to the dark side, but he did not go over the line. So he was probably, technically speaking, one of the ones that could have been the most balanced, who could have been the one that, dealt with that subconscious problems and issues and things, especially since he's human. I can speak to this as a human with that. But I think he was so indoctrinated with Yoda's bullshit that whatever work he was able to do to balance himself out was suppressed and twisted in that other way. And I know George Lucas's thing, it was like balance to the Force isn't, gray, an equal amount of light and dark. It's basically the light defeating the dark. I understand that. But that could have been personified in Mace Windu. But he made those decisions to basically be lackey boy to Yoda's bullshit. I think so. All that being said, I think Obi-Wan realized he was in a bad position and went with the organization he was staying with and thought he could do some good that way. But I genuinely think even raising Anakin, I think he would have been better served. I mean, I don't think anyone would have been well served except maybe Anakin in terms of having the Clone Wars happen. But I think without the Clone Wars, his his Tukish side maybe would have taken over a little bit more. I think he would have been able to, just sort of bomb around and have kind of adventures and try and be cool about things and right some wrongs. And I think that he would have been able to actually be more of what a Jedi should be without the forced issue brought in by the Jedi. I think, with his sort of leaning more towards negotiation, more towards sort of, defense, and he was pretty powerful and kind of deep in the Force. I think he would have been able to really be kind of different. And I think that other people's opinions, some of the people who don't like Obi-Wan because he was sort of Jedi poster boy, I think that whole aspect, that whole attitude of it would have been gone, because that Jedi poster boy wouldn't have really been there with that. He would have been more like, oh, okay, someone was watching a lot of Doctor Who when they wrote this episode of Star Wars, whatever, something. All right, so, okay, I'm under 20 minutes. I'm surprised. I know I got ranty there in a little bit. But anyway, that's what I kind of think. Oh, let me go back. I think there needs to be something where, they need to show or prove that it was Obi-Wan at least who was the holdout in not agreeing with the Council to kick Ahsoka out of the Jedi Order. I think there needs to be something just to kind of really be able to do justice to Obi-Wan as a character as a whole. Alright, so that's just my kind of opinion, something I was kind of kicking around my head about Obi-Wan Kenobi and a little bit of hope of what we see going on and sort of an alternate future almost as well. So, thanks for watching, like, subscribe, share, all the good YouTube stuff, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and however, whenever in time and space you might be.